Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, Miss Sylvia Hunt has made her way back home to TTT, at least in the form of her revived cookbook, Sylvia Hunt's Cooking. And of course, this was originally published in 1985. Now, many of you would remember At Home with Sylvia Hunt, which aired on TTT right here during the 1960s and was the first in the region as a program focused on cooking, but also preempted the shows of other legendary TV cooks such as Julia Child. And so this morning, it gives me great pleasure to have a conversation about Miss Hunt with two of her relatives. Joining us is her daughter, Diana Sombrano, and her grandson, Christopher Sombrano. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having us.
No, it's pleasure is all mine. I mean, here I am sitting at TTT where Sylvia would have, of course, had her program. I think history, you know, it sort of reminds me of how rich TTT is, and it's a pleasure to have you both here with us this morning. Diana, I'm coming to you first. Sure. I've been reading that Sylvia had a big family. Was it 8 of you
8
with
children.
mommy and daddy?
Yes.
What was it like growing up in that household with your mother as this amazing cook being seen on TV and, of course, publishing her work?
Well, it was very interesting. I learned a lot from her. We all learned a lot from her. But we had our different assignments to do as well to support her.
Yeah. So what was your assignment?
My assignment was general.
So did you peel things or did you clean up?
Clean up.
Yes.
She was not only into cookery, she was into teaching, dressmaking, flower making, all sorts of crafts, catering. So my job was to assist her with everything. Yes.
Yeah. And when you saw her program on TV for the first time, what did that feel like?
I felt really proud of my mom. Yes.
Tell us about some of the recipes. I read something about breadfruit. I read something, I think, belly full, shaddock. I mean, those things are very intrinsic to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the shaddock, a lot of people didn't know how to do shaddock.
What is shaddock?
Shaddock is a fruit like grapefruit. Mm-hmm. It has a pith in it. You can eat it, but you can also preserve the skin, the pith outside. Right. So you have to boil it, squeeze out all the water, make sure it's dried, and then put it into a syrup and let it dry. Nice. Yes.
I know that your mom was making that as well. I'm coming to you, Christopher, because I think it's a very interesting time to reintroduce the book to the TNT population. Why now?
Well, I think, well, first of all, this represents my grandmother's life's work.
Yeah.
It's very important. During COVID, we had a bit of a scare. I know my mother had committed to my grandmother that she would continue her work. And when she had that health scare back in, I guess it was April 2020, after we got through that, it was about 5 or 6 months, she made me promise to relaunch the book, to reintroduce my grandmother's work to Trinidad and Tobago. So, big assignment, but I took it on, and we worked together with Miller Publishing in Barbados because Trinidad's borders were closed.
Right.
So we had to find someone in Barbados who could work with my mother to get this done. And Sally Miller, who is a cook herself and who really honored this tradition, although she's not Trinidadian, but obviously she was very respectful and worked with Mom to do this. So we're quite excited by that whole process that we went through over that year to get this done.
Now, as I understand, some of the recipes were updated. Why updated?
I think updated in terms of
moving from ounces and so to metric grams, kilograms, etc.
Because when I heard updated, I was concerned about maybe the ingredients changing.
No.
Have the ingredients been touched, or it remains the same?
Remains the same as is the original book.
Yeah, there was a bit of a debate as to if we can just go totally healthy or what, but we felt that we wanted to preserve the tradition, right, as it was when my grandmother did her research and documented these recipes. Wow. So ultimately we did that. Some of them, obviously, as you would appreciate, it was very difficult to get some of the ingredients.
I would imagine so,
right? Yes. And some of the recipes on wild meat and so forth, well, we just had to go with the recipe because we had, in Barbados, no tap and et cetera to cook. But I think, having my mother there and her going through that to ensure that we preserved the essence of it was really important and I think timely. Yeah.
Diana, is it that you live in Barbados now?
Yes, since I retired.
So you've grown up in TNT, you've seen us cook, and now you live in Barbados. I want to talk about similarities or differences, if there are any.
A lot of differences.
Lots of differences as it relates to food. Tell us.
Well, even the shaddock, they didn't know what to do with the shaddock. Certain ingredients, like if you would say, I want a bunch of chive, they don't sell it by a bunch. They would ask you like how many ounces you want, or like callaloo bush, how much. We buy a pack of callaloo bush here. A lot of things are different, you know.
But the reason I asked the question is it, even though you are in Barbados or anywhere across the world, would you still be able to know ounces to use, ingredients to use to make a particular recipe?
Of course.
Because, for example, we know chive here, but let's say in the US or in England, what are they going to substitute that with? Is there a way to know?
With the time and, well, I guess they could substitute their
with their seasonings.
Seasonings,
right,
yes.
yeah. Because I'm wondering about the flavor profile, if it's going to remain the same.
Right.
It wouldn't be the same, but it
Right.
would be almost.
Yes, they could almost get that same
because they
flavor.
would know the difference to, but yeah.
I mean, this is an important book, but I know as well that your mom wasn't just a chef. I know that she was an alderman and in Belmont and that sort of thing. Your mother had a very, very rich life. I mean, how was it for you growing up under that sort of excellence, if I may say?
I know she had many caps she wore,
Yes.
but she was good to me in everything. She never put anything to chance. She was an alderman, a councillor first. Alderman, we had to canvass for her as well. I remember going up in Belmont and so vote for Sylvia Hunt.
Wow.
You know?
Yes.
And she used to do a lot of catering, dressmaking, covering buttons and buckles. She had a shop on Frederick Street.
Right. And then they moved to Belmont.
No, it was at Belmont first. When I was growing up, a very young girl, it was at Belmont.
Right.
And then it moved to 51 Frederick Street, just a little below Park Street, before Royal Castle. Yes. And one of my memories, my mother took on things. She didn't tell us, but we had to
You had to
put
help.
aside our stuff. And once I remember, she took on an assignment to do for Harold Saldina's band, Glory That Was Greece. And she had to embroider a lot of these regal capes and so. And to crown it all, she had to knit a golden cape. She came to me and said, I have to do it. I said, Mom, I don't only know how to knit and purl. Child, don't tell me, don't do it. And I had to go and look for a book. And when I saw that band coming down Frederick Street, and they stopped in front of my mother's shop to take pictures, I was so proud even of myself. They're doing something that I didn't know about, and it came out so beautiful. Wow. Yes.
So what I'm also hearing as well is that your mom wasn't just a motivator for everybody else, but definitely for her children as well. She pushed you.
Even my brothers as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think you're better for it?
Much, much better. Because I also taught at the John Donaldson Technical Institute after her death. Advanced dressmaking, curtains and drapery, soft furnishings. Yes.
That's amazing. Now, in terms of her legacy living on, is it that there's a relative who also carries on the restaurant somewhere abroad?
That was my sister in Canada.
Right,
She has
yes.
passed.
Right, yes.
But she took it on just as my mother used to ship up, transport coconuts and different things for her. And she would get it cleared over there. And she had a shop just like my mom's, Mighty Fine Novelty Cuisine.
Mighty Fine Novelty, yes, yes. Wow. So people all over the world can taste Sylvia Hunt's cooking.
Yes.
For sure.
Now, I want to bring it back home to the book, of course. I mean, I know you mentioned that you would have partnered with somebody in Barbados, but was it a difficult process to bring everything back together? And I asked that because, for example, I was reading that I know some of the early recordings of your mother may have been lost because they would have been recorded over. And so, you know, how important was it to bring this book now so that people can share in the recipes that Sylvia Hunt left?
Yeah, no, so I think in terms of bringing it all together, I think the most important thing was having my mother there. My mother did a lot of the research. I mean, for me, it was about relearning my grandmother and really getting to appreciate her. I guess as a child, coming up, spending time in these studios with her, I didn't really appreciate her impact, but the process of doing the research, working with my mother to do this really made me appreciate what this meant and the whole multiculturalism that represents our food and what that is, and what my grandmother sought to do in terms of documenting these recipes and how they came to be, because not only was it about the food, it was about the history and how these particular dishes came to be, in the fusion of different cultures that came to be our food. It was so important, and it's just about keeping that legacy and our culture going forward for me. So the process was really an enriching one for me to really understand my grandmother and what she meant, and her work ethic, the work ethic of my mother, the work ethic of my wife. It just because I was really supported and helped through that process. So it was really quite a fulfilling process to have these strong women who, you know, I just try to enable it and watch them, you know, take this to fruition.
So I want to know if you are more than an enabler, Christopher. Do you make any of your, do you use any of your grandmother's recipes?
I would have to say I'm a good consumer.
No.
But over COVID, I did learn some sort of 3 really important recipes.
Tell us.
Callaloo.
Yes.
I can do a mean callaloo. And when we have to, you know, on a Sunday, my wife would say, I need callaloo. I need a macaroni pie.
You go to Granny's cookbook, you know what to do.
And that's it, right? So I can do that, and I can do some good bulgjol as well, although my wife seems to have taken that one over these days. So I still have a little bit of skills,
A little bit of skills, yeah. But I mean, you are, I think as well, you have your mother, you have your grandmother, you just have all this, you know, infusion of food and culture and that kind of thing. Dare I ask if you have children and if you're going to be passing it down to them as well?
Yes, well, I think my first son in particular, he's much better than me. He seems to be a great cook, and he and his mother, they really do that. They get, you know, when he comes back, because he lives abroad, they will spend time in the kitchen, and he's experimenting, similar to my grandmother, where he experiments and he learns. I think my niece, Megan, she will be at the launch.
Okay,
and
good.
she, in terms of the new generation, her assignment is to reintroduce this to the new generation of Trinbagonians and take that forward. So certainly Megan Zambrano, which is my brother's daughter, will be instrumental in taking it forward.
Well, let's talk about the launch. I mean, when is the launch and where can we find the books available?
Right. So the launch is going to be tomorrow.
Right.
Small event and Mail Fleur, 6:30. But in terms of where the books will be available, Metropolitan Bookstores, the Book Emporium, paper-based, and then the Trini Shop, which is a souvenir shop that sells all things Trini. They are at the airport, and he has a number of locations throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So those are the main distributors, and you should be able to find them there,
Diana, I'm coming back to you because your son mentioned about the callaloo and the buljol, so we'll hold him to that for now. But I have to ask, what is your favorite recipe? Or did you have a hand in creating any of the recipes or helping your mother create any of the recipes?
I had to test them.
Yes.
I had to try them for her.
Right.
I had a hand in almost everything.
Favorite recipe? I know I put you on the spot, but favorite one?
Favorite recipe?
Yes.
I like the breadfruit roll.
The breadfruit roll,
yes,
that is
just
very
like
interesting.
A Swiss roll.
Right.
You prepare the breadfruit, and you roll it out like a pastry, put your filling in it, and you roll it, and then you slice it.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Yes, and breadfruit puffs.
Breadfruit puffs.
Like how you'll have cream puffs.
Yes.
You make the breadfruit into a pastry, and you make your puffs, and you fill it with whatever filling you want.
And I know we're going to see some more of that in the cookbook, of course, from your grandmother and your mother. I mean, final thoughts, Diana, before we close. Anything you want to tell the public about your grandmother's cooking? Any sort of words you want us to remember about your mother?
Well, I know she never gave up. She gave me a lot of encouragement. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Get up and help yourself. Always have some sort of trees or fruit growing in your yard. So when you're out of your cupboard, you can go out and make something, and that is what I do up to today.
Yes.
Make something from nothing. Yes.
And I hope Sylvia's grandson can remember that as well.
I trained him well too, you know, with the,
really?
With the callaloo and the macaroni pie. That was recent.
Oh.
Yeah. That was COVID.
Mommy just sell you out. Mommy just sell you out, yes. Well, of course, Christopher, thank you so much for coming in. Diana, thank you so much for coming. I know your mother, your grandmother. I think she has a special place in all the hearts of the Trinbagonians. And I hope that people really go out and get the book following the launch tomorrow. And of course, when it's available in bookstores. Let me thank you so much. And I can tell you for sure that her legacy lives on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And that was Christopher, of course. Christopher and Diana Zambrano just talking about a book that has been revived, and the relaunch is happening tomorrow, the Sylvia Hunt Cookbook. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.